Well, good morning, little lady. Did you sleep well? Good to hear it. You were tossing and turning in your sleep quite a bit last night. I had chucked on you a few times, but I assure you I left as soon as I saw that you was okay. I just stayed out here on the couch. Honestly, it's not a bad place to sleep. I find myself laying there a lot of times even when there's not a strange woman in my bed. You feeling any better today? I know yesterday was kind of a rough one for you. And I was worried that you might not be able to rest well being in an unfamiliar place. Best sleep you've had in weeks? Well, if you've been spending your time around that piece of work, I guess that's no surprise. But glad to hear it either way. Can I get you some coffee? I don't normally do breakfast myself. I'm not a morning person, so the idea of waking up and eating something right away just never really sat too well with me. But if it is your forte, I'm more than happy to whip you up something. I've also got tea in case you're not much of a coffee drinker. What kind of tea do I have? I've got black or green. You'll take the coffee? Good choice. Here you go. So, tell me, little lady, have you thought any more about what you're going to do about your, boy trouble? I imagine he's not going to be too happy with the fact that you went home with a strange man instead of with him last night. Especially after said strange man socked him a good one. Now, I won't lie, it felt good to put that little, well, it felt good to put him in his place. Although his face was strangely soft. Felt almost like I was smacking a baby's butt. Now, far be it from me to pass judgment on your taste, but I'll just say this, little lady. You can definitely do a hell of a lot better. No, I wasn't necessarily talking about myself. Trust me, you can do a hell of a lot better than me, too. Well, let's just say that I've struggled to be a proper gentleman at times. That scrap back in the bar definitely wasn't my first time throwing hands, if you can even call that a scrap. That's a long and boring story, trust me. Well, let's just say that back when I was a younger man, probably not too much older than Daddy's boy, I found myself mixed up with the wrong kind of crowd, I guess you could say. Yeah, I moved out of my parents' house a few years before that. Just kind of wandering around, not really knowing what to do with my life. Then I found my way into a biker gang. Yep, I used to have a bike. Which actually turned out to be probably the best investment I ever made. Not because of the bike itself, but because it was thanks to that bike that I managed to successfully get T-boned by a car, break damn near every bone in my body, and that gave me a lot of time to think about my life while I was in that hospital bed. Needless to say, I finally came to my senses and decided to be a grown-up. So, once I got out of the hospital, I sold what was left of the bike, said my goodbye to everyone who was in the gang, and somehow wound up here. Well, it's hard to say what exactly drew me to this town. But here I am. And I don't regret it. Yeah, this town's quiet, and the sheriff's an ass. But I guess that's no worse than anywhere else. At least here, I know exactly where the grocery store is, the gas station, and the bar. And if you believe in fate and all that, if I hadn't gone through all that, I wouldn't be sitting here being able to enjoy a cup of coffee with a lovely young lady like yourself. Life's funny like that, I guess. Everything's connected with everything. I don't know if that's philosophy or what it is, but, Well, sounds like we have a guest. I better go greet him. I like to say I don't know who it is, but something tells me that our guest is not going to be a very surprising one. One moment, little lady. Well, good morning, Sheriff. What brings you by so early? Don't be coy, he says. Now, Sheriff, I would have you know, I'm a perfectly respectable member of this community, and I don't enjoy the implications that you are putting forward. So again, why don't you tell me, what brings you here? Hold it right there, Sheriff. You and I both know how this works. You don't come into my house without an invitation, unless you got a warrant. Now, if you do have a warrant, I would absolutely love to see it. 'Cause something tells me that you don't, and even if you did, what'll be on it would be a load of shit. So we can just have this conversation right here in the doorway. Ah, you're here about that. So I was right. The little snot-nosed brat came running up to you last night telling him about mean old Henry beat the shit out of him in a bar, didn't he? Bet he sure spun a wonderful story about how he wasn't doing nothing, and I was in a drunken tirade, or... Well, you can regale me with the details. I would love to hear them. His girl. Well, I don't know anything about his girl, but there is a lovely young lady who's enjoying some coffee with me after I brought her home last night. So I would ask that you mind your P's and Q's. And I do understand that I've let a couple fly already, but I'm hoping that you'll look past that. She's got to come with you. Is that so? And why, pray tell, is that? She just does. Nah. Sit on down, little lady. You don't gotta do nothing. Now you listen here and you listen good, Sheriff. For starters, what happened between me and your son, that was all him. I was not the aggressor in that situation. He swung first, and I defended myself. Now, it ain't my fault that your son can't take a punch half as well as you can take a bribe, but I'll freely admit, yeah, I punched the hell out of him. However, I think you and I have known each other long enough to know that I don't do anything without a reason. My reason is that he was about to put hands on the little lady, Now, you and I are both Southern gentlemen. Well, we're both Southern. And we both know that that sort of behavior is unacceptable. Now, it ain't my fault that you decided not to raise a hand to your son and teach him better. So I took it upon myself to do that lesson for you. Don't worry, that one's for free, Sheriff. But let me tell you right now, that little lady right there, she ain't going nowhere with you. I ain't keeping her here. She's free to leave whenever she wants. But something tells me that the way that she stiffened up in that chair the second that she saw your face, she ain't too keen to go with you nowhere. Especially not to that little brat. So how about this? You really want to push me, Sheriff? Go right on ahead. Push me. We'll see how far that gets you. You'll be back. Oh, that I don't doubt for a second, Sheriff. But again, until you're here with a warrant, I'm gonna ask you to kindly get the fuck off my porch. Well, that happened. Oh, don't worry about it, little lady. He's all bluster. He's just pissed off because everyone knows that his son got his clock cleaned and that makes him look bad. So he just wanted to come here and puff his chest up and act like he was a big man. Oh no, I don't really have any major problem with the sheriff. He's just an ass. Again though, you'll get those everywhere. I see you finished your coffee. Care for another one? No? All right. Well, if it doesn't bother you too much, I'm going to go ahead and finish mine. Did I mean what I said? I'm going to need you to be a little bit more specific, little lady. About you not having to go anywhere? Of course not. I meant what I said. You're free to stay or go at your leisure. This ain't a prison, and I'm not your warden. I just wanted to give you a safe place to go, since it seemed like there wasn't really anywhere else that you had in mind last night that you thought was safe. Don't worry about it. You can stay here as long as you like. I don't mind at all. As you can tell, house is plenty big enough that we wouldn't even ever have to see each other if we didn't want to. You like seeing me. Well, that's convenient, because I will admit, I do like looking at you. Is that too far forward? Sorry. I tend to say what's on my mind without thinking very hard about it. I can see the look on your face. I know you're still worried about what happened there with the sheriff. Trust me, you'll be just fine here. I already told you I wouldn't let anything bad happen to you, and that hasn't changed. You are safe here, and I'll make sure that you always stay safe for as long as you need me to keep you. Now, I know I mentioned before that I'm not a big breakfast person. We're getting to have a chat with our little friend the sheriff has put me in the mood for something to eat. So, what are your opinion on pancakes? Do I have chocolate chips? I think I do. Worst comes to worst, I guess you and I are going to be taking a trip to the store. Little lady wants chocolate chip pancakes. She'll get chocolate chip pancakes.